Welcome to Motoworld. If you're a regular Motoworld viewer, then you already know that the Camel Supercross Series is in full swing and that a pair of riders, Jeff Matasevich in the 125 class and Rick Johnson in the Coors Extra Gold Super Challenge 250 class, were undefeated after 3 rounds. Now, round 4 was in San Diego at Jack Murphy Stadium. Did their win streaks remain intact? Let's go to the West Coast and find out.
First up, the 250 class, and no, that's not the Icky Shuffle. You're close, though. It's the Ricky Shuffle. It's usually performed on cool evenings by riders trying to stay warm. Does it work? Well, with the 250 main event underway, the action got hot in a hurry. In the first corner, a multi-bike pileup took 4 riders out of contention, including Keith Bowen and 125 world champion Jean-Michel Bayle from France. As we look at that pileup again, watch for Bowen in the pink riding pants. He ends up wedged between Bayle's rear wheel and fender. Bowen was not seriously injured, but he did lose several layers of skin when Bayle shifted gears. Meanwhile, Mike Fisher from Santee, California was out in front. Close behind, Honda's number 7, Jeff Stanton, and number 45, Yamaha's Damon Bradshaw. Behind that battling duo was trouble of the highest degree. Rick Johnson, who had only a mediocre start, was on the prowl and applying pressure. Fisher was the first to crack. Let's take another look as Fisher does his impersonation of Greg Louganis. In case you're wondering, there were no broken bones, and in fact, when Fisher finally found his bike, he remounted and re-entered the fray. Meanwhile, the attention was focused on Bradshaw, the youngster, on the white Yamaha, and Johnson, the veteran, on the Honda. Now watch as the veteran puts his experience to work. Grabbing an inside line, Johnson block passes Bradshaw. No question about it, experience is still the best teacher. Next on Johnson's list was teammate Jeff Stanton. Watch the upcoming pass, and you'll see why many call Johnson the best in the world. Over the jump, and a quick look to locate Stanton, and the rest is history. In front of a highly partisan crowd, Johnson from nearby El Cajon took the win. In doing so, Johnson tied the legendary Bob Hanna for the most wins in the history of Supercross, 27. The question still remains, can anyone stop Rick Johnson?
So Rick Johnson, from off the leader's pace, made it 4 wins out of 4 starts. Next, we'll answer the question, can Jeff Matasevich do the same? Chris Larson has that story as we go back to San Diego.
For the second year in a row, Jeff Matasevich is dominating 125 race action in the Western Regional events. The Team Kawasaki rider won the 125 crown in 1988, and with wins in the first 3 events and this whole shot in the 4th, appears to be well on his way to making it 2 in a row. Chasing Matasevich throughout the San Diego affair was number 59, Michael Craig, from nearby El Cajon. The Yamaha rider stayed within striking distance of the defending champion and on several occasions drew close to the Kawasaki's rear wheel. That, though, is as close as Craig would get. 2 riders that did get closer together were 7-Eleven Talon Bolin from Sacramento, California, and Chris Young from Mission Viejo. Bolin had caught and passed Young, but you know how young guys are, they hate to get past. This Young was no exception. He was in the process of repassing Bolin when the 2 collided. Despite that time-consuming crash, Talon Bolin eventually finished a very creditable 5th overall, 1 spot ahead of Chris Young. Meanwhile, defending 125 champ Jeff Matasevich was in control and at the head of the pack. Craig was still trying, but every time he managed to close, Matasevich found another gear and would sprint away. At the finish, with hands in the air, Jeff Matasevich took the checkered flag. Michael Craig, enjoying his best finish of the series, finished 2nd, while 3rd went to Yamaha's Mike LaRocco from LaPorte, Indiana. For Motoworld, I'm Chris Larson.
Still to come on Motoworld, round 1 of the National Enduro Championship. A behind-the-scenes look at the scoring of a Supercross. And coming up next, more Supercross excitement as the series heads to Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami. Keep it tuned to TNN.
Team Suzuki presents the Motoworld Suzuki Event Calendar. A look at some of the major events coming up in the world of motorcycles and ATVs.
Daytona Cycle Week is just around the corner. Activities start off on Sunday, March 5th with AMA CCS Endurance Racing. Saturday will be set aside strictly for Supercross. That event will run rain or shine and is one of the most prestigious events on the Supercross calendar. Sunday, March 12th is dedicated for road racing. Besides the 48th running of the Daytona 200, there will also be 250 Grand Prix and Super Sports competition. Look for highlights from Cycle Week on an upcoming edition of Motoworld.
Welcome back. From the sunny California coast, the Camel Supercross Series traveled east to Florida's Gold Coast. It was hoped by most of the pros that a change in geography would result in a change of winners. Let's find out.
Opened officially in August of 1987, Joe Robbie Stadium, site of Super Bowl 23, seats in excess of 70,000. Took 20 months to build and cost over $102 million. Add to that hundreds of yards of Florida sand, some hay bales, and brightly colored banners, and you have round 5 of the Camel Supercross Series, commonly referred to as the Rick Johnson Show. With the 250 main underway, it appeared, though, Rick Johnson's win streak was in jeopardy. Local favorite, Suzuki's Ron Tishner from Palm Harbor, Florida, had turned in the fastest heat of the night and was leading the main by a mile. Johnson, meanwhile, after a mediocre start, was looking for lines in the soft Florida sand. The Team Honda rider cut and slashed through traffic. Near the midway point, the defending Supercross champ broke into second, but was way off the pace. Then Tishner took a side trip. He had crashed hard after missing a triple jump. That was all Johnson needed. Tishner, meanwhile, was not able to regain his rhythm. He was passed first by Frenchman Jean-Michel Bayle. Then it was Jeff Stanton that went by. Tishner eventually settled for 7th. For Johnson, the win, number 28 in his career, was a momentous occasion. He is now the winningest Supercross rider in the history of the sport. The Team Honda rider also has a substantial lead in the series standings after the first 5 rounds. Barring unforeseen problems, Johnson is well on the way to his 3rd Supercross crown.
Race action among the 250s was good, but in the 125 class, it was, well, on a scale of 1 to 10, it was at least a 12. Let's go back to Joe Robbie Stadium, and you'll see what I mean.
Number 22, Suzuki's Ty Davis, was the leader on the opening lap of the 125 main. Yamaha's Damon Bradshaw, number 45, the heavy pre-race favorite, was comfortably in 5th. Then Bradshaw made one of those rookie mistakes. He tried to set up a turn in midair and overcompensated. By the time he got up and going, Bradshaw, riding his first 125 Supercross of the season, was in dead last. That's when the fun began. 16-year-old Bradshaw threw caution to the wind. He later stated he had no idea how many riders he could pass. He knew, however, he would keep on charging until the checkered flag was thrown. Meanwhile, Ty Davis, with an open track, appeared to have the situation well under control. Bradshaw, though, kept on coming. And coming. And coming. Finally, Bradshaw was in 3rd and on the heels of Chris Coleman in 2nd. And would you believe, after all of that, Bradshaw went down again. And again, the Yamaha rider picked himself up, dusted himself off, and went back to work. When he caught Coleman this time, Bradshaw stayed upright and literally jumped into 2nd. With time running out, Bradshaw set his sights on the leader, Ty Davis, and caught him. It all boiled down to 4 single jumps for Davis and a pair of double jumps for Bradshaw. And just like that, Bradshaw took over the lead. It's apparent Bradshaw will dominate the Eastern 125 events just as Matasevich has dominated those in the West. A showdown between the 2 125 Supercross powers will take place at the LA Coliseum in June. At stake will be honor, prestige, and a $25,000 payday to the winner, courtesy of R.J. Reynolds. For the spectacular riding skills displayed in Miami, Damon Bradshaw is our Castrol Rider of the Week. For being named Castrol Rider of the Week, Bradshaw will receive a commemorative plaque and a special racing jacket from Castrol.
During the off-season, the National Enduro Championship Series enjoyed a shot in the arm in the form of increased factory participation. Going into round 1 of the 1989 series, Kawasaki, KTM, Yamaha, and Suzuki all entered factory efforts. How did they fare? Mark McKay fills us in.
When an off-road event is scheduled to start at 8 in the morning in the middle of nowhere, most participants and spectators are forced to camp out nearby. That was the case for most of the 443 entries of the 18th annual Quicksilver Enduro. Breakfast, registration, and some last-minute final tuning all had to take place before it was off to the starting area. All the high-powered factory teams were in attendance, including Kawasaki's Larry Rossler, who had to be considered the race favorite.
Last weekend I won the National Hare and Hound. I won the first National Hare Scrambles up in Hollister 2 weeks ago. I won the first score off-road race, the Parker 400th, 4 weeks ago. So, I've had a good start, so hopefully I can keep it going.
Team Kawasaki has an imposing team for 89. Joining Rossler is number 30A, four-time Enduro champ Terry Cunningham. The Quicksilver National is unique as far as terrain is concerned. Riders have to traverse everything from sandy hills to dry and dusty, unforgiving rocky ground. And if you don't believe rocks can be slippery, just watch this guy. Ouch! Defending event winner Larry Rossler and defending National Enduro champion Randy Hawkins set the pace from the first checkpoint. Kevin Hines on a KTM was also in the hunt. In fact, all three riders were virtually running tied throughout the event, which made for some great action and some pretty good home movies. Some of the co-stars and extras even took time out for a wave to our Motoworld cameras. After 3 loops of over 100 miles on very difficult terrain, the riders finally reached the final checkpoint. Hawkins, the defending national champ, thought he won. KTM factory rider Kevin Hines thought he won. Larry Rossler, number 31, rolled in later thinking he won. Guess what? They were all right. There was a three-way tie. Checkpoint 5 was the tiebreaker, and after all the computing and tabulations were done, Randy Hawkins was declared the winner by a 3-second margin over Hines. 13 seconds separated second and third place. Round 1 was in the books with the defending national champ victorious. Reporting for Motoworld, this is Mark McKay.
Did you ever wonder who keeps track of all the riders and all the races at a Supercross? Well, as the old saying goes, it's a tough job, but someone has to do it. This week's Coors Behind the Scenes segment salutes the folks that handle that chore.
In most forms of motorsports, timing and scoring are done by electronic means. Tiny sensors on the machines relay impulses to receiving units, and the car or bike's number is then printed out by a computer instantaneously. Supercross, though, is different. Human attributes of hand-eye coordination are the keys here, not high-tech electronics. Having said that, it becomes obvious that a good scorer is invaluable.
I think our job is the important job. Without us doing our job correctly, the rest of it's going to fall apart. They have to have the correct order of racers in order to set up the races, to transfer properly, and to get those in the main event there. And without us, they don't have that.
But how about this scenario? Even if you had 20/20 vision, you couldn't make out heads or tails of what's going on out there. And how about this scenario? Can you tell me who was ahead of who, or what place was the guy in on the bottom?
Well, that's why we run 3 score sheets, so we can always go back and reenact a race from the score sheets. And by having 3 sheets, we can tell if there's a problem. If a problem showed up in one sheet, we still have the other 2 to go back and authenticate as to whether or not a rider did come around all the times that he should be credited for.
A Motoworld salute and tip of the hat goes out to all the scorers out there that allow spectators and riders to just plain have fun. Oh, by the way, Elaine, what happens when you get one of those first lap pileups?
You don't look down and you write fast.
Too bad there isn't a shorthand for numbers.
When Motoworld continues, we'll have an up-close and personal look at Rick Johnson and some of the side attractions of the Supercross Series. Keep it tuned to TNN's Sports Sunday Lineup.
This week's Alka-Seltzer Rough Ride of the Week belongs to this Supercross rider. After that, he definitely needed that fast, effective Alka-Seltzer relief. That same relief designed for tough winter colds.
Welcome back to Motoworld. As you've seen in the first 5 Supercross events of the year, no one has been able to beat Team Honda's Rick Johnson. Now, we've interviewed the El Cajon, California native many times on Motoworld, and every time he has offered a bright and unique insight into not only himself, but his chosen sport as well. Here with the latest on Rick Magic Johnson is Dennis Torres.
No other racer that has appeared on Motoworld has been seen in so many different lights than Rick Johnson. Singing, surfing, making pizza, or modeling the latest Viking headgear, RJ is one of a kind. And that's off the track as well as on. As of the Miami Supercross, RJ is undefeated this season, yet the man of many hobbies, faces, and fans remains motivated.
Well, there's a lot of young and up-and-coming riders that are fast, and I know that they're gunning for me, and they want to take what I have. And I've always wanted to be the winningest rider in motocross and Supercross also. So I just see new goals for myself to set, to be stronger mentally and physically, and just have a total package that's unbeatable.
Two of the factors that have helped Johnson stay unbeatable this year are his training and his training partners. Training partner number one is teammate Jeff Stanton. As Johnson explains it, Stanton helps him push himself to his limits and afterwards is there as a friend. It seems to be mutually beneficial because Stanton, number 7, is riding better than ever. This is Rick Johnson's doghouse behind his El Cajon, California house. Unfortunately for Stanton, he has been spending a lot of his off hours nestled inside. All the result of a friendly wager.
Yeah, see, how it all got started was we were talking about Goat Brecker, and I think it was 1986. Brecker had a bet with some friends in his neighborhood that if he lost, he'd sleep in a tree. So they ended up building him a tree house, and so Jeff said, well, why don't we do that? We'll bet whoever loses, you know, they'll sleep in the doghouse. And so he's got 4 nights in there, and I got 0 so far. Doghouse, and he acts like a dog. I gotta clean up after him now, too. Get up, we're going bicycle riding. What? Get up, we're going bicycle riding. There's your chow.
Oh, thanks, man. Wait till the next race. Yeah, we'll see.
Getting back to the training, Johnson works out with a professional personal trainer that has him doing everything from the standard Jack LaLanne exercises to something that appears to be influenced by a combination of Jane Fonda and Michael Jackson. Still, when Buddy Stanton is around, there's always time for the good old standbys like B-ball. Rick's nickname is Magic, but as you can see, it didn't come from his court prowess. Always thinking ahead and mature beyond his 24 years, Johnson thinks he'd like to go car racing. In fact, he's already got his role model.
It'd have to be Richard Petty because I've always looked up to him because of his attitude. I mean, he was a great champion, and he's not winning as many races as he used to, but still, he's always got the great attitude towards people. He's always a gentleman to ladies, a good role model for kids to look up to, and he's always got a smile on his face, and he's really approachable for people, and he's a great driver also. So if I could, I'm trying to be like the Richard Petty of motocross right now.
Reporting for Motoworld, this is Dennis Torres.
Rick Johnson and his fellow riders aren't the only entertainers at a Supercross event. Sometimes young aspiring racers or even spectators join in on the fun. Take a look and you'll see what I mean. With that, we're out of time. We'll leave you with some thrills and spills of Supercross. Until next week, keep your wheels on the ground and your feet on the pegs. For all of us here at Motoworld, I'm Larry Myers.